In this video, I want to talk to you about the problem with Omada and other social betting apps that are perhaps similar to it, and why we should be looking at them maybe a bit more closely and considering whether they are actually what they make out to be. Now, I'm going to preface this with a little bit of history of my own relationship with Omada and how we ended up in this position. So if you don't know what Omada is, they call themselves a social betting app where you can make bets on football matches and other sports every day. Pretty much there's always a match every day, and they give you some free coins that you can bet with. No real money goes in that front, so there's just these fake coins, this fake currency in the game, and you win some coins. At the end of every week it's reset and it's converted into a sort of XP system and diamonds. So there's these three different kinds of currencies within the game. So you've got coins, you've got diamonds, and you've got XP, and you're cumulatively building up the diamonds and the XP, and the coins get reset every week as they get converted into the diamonds and XP, and you level up. So it's much like if you make bets with real money, except there's no real money going in and there's no real money coming out the other end. There's no way to win anything physical at the moment. I believe in the past there's some monthly prizes, but they've not talked about anything like that recently. I think there was a PS5 very early on in the app, at least in the app when it was promoted in the UK. But now it's just the coins, the fake coins you spend on the bets, and then at the end of the week you get a leaderboard. You can set up squads, they're called, with your friends or with your community. We set up community one around my Twitch Discord, which we've now got rid of, as will become clear as we go into this video. But on paper it seems like, okay, you're able to gamble without actually gambling. Now, as time's gone, there's been a number of problems that have sort of emerged. I've thought about it myself a little bit more. I've seen other people talk about it, and some newer developments that have changed the way in which we consider Omada as this kind of app that allows you to bet without risking money. And underpinning this is this fundamental point that Omada sell themselves as this anti-gambling app, as sort of a way to gamble without risking your money, to engage with sports in this kind of predictive way, in this social way. They very much highlight the social side of it, without spending any money, without the risks that come with gambling, without the addiction perhaps that comes with gambling. We'll come back to that point right there a bit later on in the video. But they've sold themselves this way for a long time. You can go back and see some of their old tweets, some of their old promotions. When they sponsor creators, they sponsor Away Days, Ellis Platten, for example. Fantastic videos. Go watch it. This isn't criticism of him at all. You know, if he's involved in a sponsorship with them, that's probably contractual and he'll be tied by it. But he's a big proponent of anti-gambling measures. He talks himself about his own troubles with gambling in the past in a lot of his videos, and in other discussions. There's a video he did on the scouting center with Mr. Diz. I'll put a link to that down below, where he talked about his issues with gambling. He's talked about it elsewhere as well. So the idea that he's engaging with this as this anti-gambling platform, a way for people who are perhaps addicted to gambling to make those bets without actually risking anything real.
They contend this app is meant to curb problem gambling.
To go in different directions at the bookmakers, the company which do betting with the currency. And because we want to offer a way for young people to have pleasure and to enjoy sports, but without taking any risk. There's a lot of people who say, okay, thanks to you, I don't lose any money every month now, and I'm very happy to have you. And some people say, okay, you are educating people to betting, and it's not our goal.
Now, the problems with the app are actually several fold. So I'm going to start perhaps with those that address the gambling nature of it, and I'm going to come to a recent development that's made it even worse. But the first one, and I don't want to get too much into the scaremongering or the fear-mongering that you perhaps get, particularly in certain parts of society around gambling and the accessibility of gambling to youngsters and the addictive nature of it. You know, this is fairly well studied. People don't really know, like, is the gambling nature, is it gamification, is it gambling, you know, at what point are they crossing the lines? Is this conditioning people to become a gambling? You might see this argument made online or in news reports. In fact, I've got a segment here.
Turning right now to an I-Team investigation tonight. On Super Bowl Sunday, adults here in Connecticut can place legal bets right on their cell phone. But the I-Team is learning our children can do the same thing, just not with real money.
In fact, I got this clip from this news report here where they talk about the conditioning of gambling in younger children who can pick up the app. There's no age limit on the app, so people can pick it up from 4+. In fact, 4+ is the listed age on the App Store. So as young as 4+ they can get in. It's very minimal in terms of the way of age gates or even registration gates that allow you to get into the app. So very young children could be getting into this and starting to gamble, albeit not with real money, but developing those addictions, you know, feeling like they're winning a lot in this gambling. And that could cause some very problematic results down the line. I don't want to dwell on this point too much, but that is something to bear in mind at the background of this. So instead of actually being an anti-gambling app, there is that argument that they are conditioning people into this form of gambling. And to highlight that sort of anti-gambling message that they put across, you know, not only did they go for the anti-gambling proponent Ellis plan to sponsor his videos, but also they did a promotion recently, whereas if you closed your gambling accounts, they'd send you a football shirt. Now I thought it would just be one in the game, but no, they sent me a physical football shirt. Here it is. It's actually quite nice, which, you know, makes me feel kind of guilty about it. You know, they sent this football shirt. It says Omada Day is a good day. You know, it's got these slogans on it. It's quite a nice, not a bad shirt. But anyway, and they sent that completely free. If you closed the gambling account and proved it to them that you closed the gambling account, they would send you the shirt and give you a little bit of an in-game boost as well. But it's that in-game boost that I wanted to come back to, because previously the way to earn that was via either you could win some of their online competitions or anything. You know, they do a tweet every day where you can win it. Feels a little bit gamey. You know, or you could earn the coins across a week, or the XP across a week, or the diamonds across a week. You get the coins, they transfer into the other two, and that unlocks some stuff for you. So you unlock, for example, a card that gives you a 5% boost on Newcastle matches if it turns out to be a Newcastle shirt. They were mystery boxes, and we know loot boxes and mystery boxes do prey on the same, you know, psychological elements in the brain that gambling does as well. You know, you don't know what you're going to get. It's a mystery. It's like when you run a slot machine and the things are going around, what are you going to get, what are you going to get? And most of the time it's predetermined. You ever seen slot machines online and you think they always show you like the 1 million just before you tick onto the 0 you lost, because they know that 1 million was never that close. They just want you to make you feel like that, particularly in the online casinos. It's already predetermined that you're going to lose, but they want you to think that you were just that far away from winning. And you know, gambling loot boxes and other loot boxes are no different. So if you watch any kind of video games that have loot boxes, what they'll do is they'll cycle through all the prizes that are in the loot box, particularly the very rare ones. They'll show them cycling around, especially near the end as they start to get slower, and you can see them a bit better. And then right at the end, it'll tick over and you'll get some crappy gun skin, or maybe a skin for your person that you don't really want, or some cheap gems or something, whereas you didn't get the ultra rare, legendary, whatever status item that you really wanted, that you'd seen just that millimeter before. So you go, and what the game wants you to do is drop more money on that item. So this experience system that allowed you to gain more shirts that boost your XP, I mean, it's cumulative. So the longer you've been playing, obviously the better you will be, but there's no different to leveling up in many different kinds of games, RPGs. It gives a bit of an end game to the game as well, but when it resets it every week, something a bit to play on for. So it's a gamification of the game. Now the trouble with it is that it could very closely be linked to some kind of monetization. So it's already introduced that addictive nature. Oh, I want to unlock some more diamonds, I want to unlock some more shirts. What's going to be in my next loot box? Am I going to get a Spurs shirt? Am I going to get an Arsenal shirt? Am I going to get Man United, Real Madrid, Barcelona? During the World Cup, they won a special World Cup card that gave you a boost across the whole of the World Cup. There was only something like 5% of the boxes. But because the game had always sold itself as being completely free, and again, this is something that people like Ellis Platten say in his videos, so it's obviously a line that they fed to him, but it's also, they've used it online on their Twitter accounts, this completely free app motto. But just around Christmas, I think it was around the 26th of December, they silently added in an update. Now, they didn't announce this update. It's never been mentioned on their Twitter either. So they slid in this update where you can now buy these loot crates. They're called bags. They contain some diamonds, some cards, and some boosts. Now, problem with that is the boost gives you a 10% on a game. You use that at the start of the week and it starts to cumulative. You can very quickly, a 10% boost plus a 10-15% boost on your cards will mean that you're winning those weekly leaderboards much more frequently than anyone else. Just as an example, let's say on a Monday you put on the odds at 2-1. So basically it's a 1 in 3 chance that your result will come in. So you put in 1 and you get back 3. On Tuesday, you do the same. That 3 becomes 9. On Wednesday, that 9 becomes 27. Thursday becomes 81. Friday becomes 243. Saturday, it's 729. By the time Sunday comes around, you're at 2,187 coins. Now, let's say you get a 25% boost. You've collected a whole load of cards and you've got a load of the cans. You add 10 and 15%. You can actually even get higher than this. So a 25% boost just on that Monday. It'll net you about 7 to 8 coins extra, depending on if they round up or round down, because they only ever give whole coins. So let's say you get, we'll be generous, we'll say you get 38 out of that. So on Tuesday, you reinvest that 38, becomes 114. You're making exactly the same predictions as the other person, but you just had that little boost at the start. 342 on the Thursday, 1,026 on the Friday, 3,078 on the Saturday, and you're looking at 9,234 on the Sunday. But you then bet one final time and you end up with 27,702 on the final Sunday score. So it's quite a lot of coins. It's an extra 20 to 25%. If you just predict across the week at the 2-to-1 without using the boost, you'll get 21,870, assuming you won every single one of those predictions. Of course, that's not going to happen. There's got to be a little bit of variance in there. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. But if you were lucky, you would end up with 21,870. You might win some with higher odds. You might win some with low. You might lose some with lower odds. It's going to matter very much on the games. But we're treating two equal players here, with the only difference being whether they are using these boosts or not. So 21,870 on the non-boost using player. On the boost player, he ends up with 27,702 coins. That is an increase of around about 6,000 coins over the player who didn't play the boost. Now, that booster initially only gave the original player 8 extra coins, but that 8 extra coins accumulatively over the week built up to a lot. So that player who had the boost, the advantage, now maybe because they were a long player originally, had an advantage there. Now, when they add in these loot boxes and you can buy these boosts, it now becomes pay to win. I took this to the developers in their Discord channel. I challenged them on it. I said, you've promoted yourself as this completely free game with no paid elements. There's no way to boost your payment. There's no way to win by paying more. And I said, this is very much now, these loot boxes are a pay to win mechanic. And the response was not great. They told me it's not pay to win because you still have to win the bets. And they didn't really back that up. They just banned me from Discord. Oops.
He's a very naughty boy. Now go away.
Now, I think they've not really understood what pay to win means here. So pay to win, there's not really a set definition for pay to win, but there's, if you go look it up on the internet, there's a lot of different definitions. So I found a few definitions to sort of give you a good idea what pay to win might mean and why this is in fact pay to win. So pay to win, a situation where a player can buy in-game content or in-game changes with real money that give the player an advantage or an advance the player gameplay wise, which in both these cases that we gave you, the player who had the coins had an advantage across the week, everything else being equal, they had a significant advantage. Pay to win is a system where a player can purchase something that is not superficial or cosmetic. These boosts are not superficial or cosmetic. It is the entire game to win the weekly leaderboard. Now, you can get that by advancing in the game and by playing a lot, but you're just bypassing this now with these loot boxes, with these ways you can just buy your way into earning more coins than anyone else. Games that allow you to buy better gear or allow you to make better items than everyone else at a faster rate, which this is what it's doing. It's happening at a faster rate. It makes the game largely unbalanced, even for people who have skill in the game without paying. So the more someone puts into the game, money-wise, the more they're going to get out of it. Now, this is of course rife in mobile games and increasingly so in online games, particularly free-to-play games. There are games like, there are arguments about whether something like Rainbow Six Siege would be pay to win, although ultimately a lot of that is cosmetic once you've unlocked the operators. So there is a finite end. You just unlock those operators and you play, and you can just play as the other operators. They're not necessarily an advantage. The idea is that it's supposed to be balanced, but within something like Omada, it's the entire point of the game. Within an individual week, the person who puts down the most in terms of the boosts and the cards is going to have a significant advantage over the people they're competing against. So why does this matter? Well, the first is that these kind of loot boxes and mechanics are very predatory, and they certainly play on a certain kind of people. You ever heard of the term of a whale who puts in a lot of money into these kind of apps? They just pay for the apps. Now, of course, I understand that the app developers have to make money somehow, but if you're selling yourself as a completely free anti-gambling app, do not put into your game a mechanic which allows players to put money in order for some random reward that's going to help them win more. That's just a gambling mechanic. And then when you're also marking that to youngsters, to youth, again, conditioning those youth into the gambling system, both with the loot boxes and the playing of the game themselves. You're encouraging them to put more money into the game. Of course, academia has done research into this. There's an article in the Addiction Journal, Predatory Monetization Schemes in Video Games and Internet Gaming Disorder. Predatory monetization schemes in video games are purchasing systems that disguise or withhold the long-term cost of the activity until players are already financially and psychologically committed. So they wanted lots of players playing Omada, and then they introduced these loot boxes. Such schemes contribute to the increasing similarity of gaming and gambling for the future for financial harm for those with internet gaming disorder. It's preying on certain disorders and gambling tendencies within individuals, and it's conditioning them from a very young age in order to do this. Now, like I said, I don't want to get too involved in the moral panic of children getting involved in gambling, but I do think there is a legitimate concern there. But you can't sell your game as a completely free anti-gambling game if that's not what it is. Other quotes: the sale and presentation of loot boxes often involve exploiting consumers through predatory mechanisms, fostering addiction, targeting vulnerable consumer groups, and more. It's not a good look for a game that has sold itself as anti-gambling. So they snuck out this update on the 26th of December. They didn't put it in the update notes. It's not referenced on their Twitter or pages, and it was never announced. It's just there on the app. They've right now just put on, if you go look in the App Store, they've put on a special offer. So they're saying, oh, it's a discount on getting these loot boxes. So it's even cheaper right now than it normally is. There's a sale on it. And this is again playing into those psychological tendencies. People have when they say, oh, it's on sale, I've got to get it now. FOMO, fear of missing out. I've got to get it on sale now. It's going to be more expensive next week. Let's get on now. These are completely artificial prices. There's no introductory offer or anything. They've just made it up. These aren't even physical, tangible items, so it's not cost them anything to produce. Of course, the game costs them something to produce and to run and to maintain. In fact, many of them are consumables. Those little red boosts, once you've used them, they are gone completely. And then they build upon this with other things. So the cards, for example, have different levels of rarity, and that's known to help with that gambling addiction. It's going to help people condition people to thinking, oh, I need to get a level 3-star card, I want a gold card, I want an England gold card, or I want a Spurs or an Arsenal, I keep getting Burnley or I keep getting Norwich, I want these top teams. That's another gambling mechanic introduced into that game. So what about the social side of Omada? I've very much addressed the gambling and the problematic side of introduction of these loot boxes. There is another major problem in Omada, and now they've been introducing features across the last year or so into the game. One of the new things they introduced was live games. There are chats within your own social group that you can have, but also during the live games, there is a live chat during these as well. And when these were very prominent, nearly every World Cup game had one of these live chats. It was a little bit buggy. You could predict during the games as well, and sometimes it didn't pay out. Sometimes they had to give refunds on those, not refunds of real money, because at that point you couldn't put real money in, but refunds of people's diamonds and gems that they'd spent time earning, and they made mistakes. They didn't pay out properly on certain prizes. There were lots of typos in what prizes you would receive. So it was a little bit buggy on that front. There was other times where the rewards didn't, the daily logins and stuff, another predatory mechanic, addiction-based mechanic, trying to condition you to log in every single day. Those weren't paying out properly. They weren't counting when people were logging in. So the app itself, but I mean, perhaps that's to be expected, apps in bugs in apps. But the problem with the live games themselves actually was this chat. Now, there's no age gate on downloading the app. It says 4+ in the App Store, but once you're in. And then they say, you got mods in there. These mods, it turned out there was one, and he was 16 years old, and I think he was just doing it for some spare cash. Perhaps I didn't even know if they were paying him, but it turns out, and he ended up resigning. I don't know, probably from some abuse, and he was not particularly great himself, but I haven't really got any evidence of that. Just my own examples of where I've seen him arguing with people in these discussions. So that you had these live chats going and just scrolling. There was no filter on racism, homophobia, sexism. In fact, it was rife. Like even the usernames, there's no filter on the usernames. So I have examples, pictures. I'm not sure whether I'm going to include them in this video, but I'm willing to share them if anyone asks. Maybe I'll share some of the I just want to say tame, and none of them are particularly tame, but some of the examples of things that I saw regularly in the app. Maybe I'll blur out the offending words just so you get a good feel for what kind of chat it was. This was supposed to be, it sells itself as this social chatting app where you can come and have a civilized discussion about the match that's going on. All it is people just shouting homophobia and racism each other and calling themselves all kinds of horrible things and things that are fairly derogatory. So the mods weren't really up on it, and there was no word filter. So even usernames, I saw the infamous N-word as people's usernames. How do you not have a basic filter to stop people from putting that as their username? So you've just got this 16-year-old mod who doesn't really know what they are doing and not really following along on deleting the wrong messages, or not missing very blatant homophobia and sexism and racism and transphobia and all sorts in the chat. There are other times there weren't any mods in at all. But there's a complete lack of quality sports discussion. I saw no sports discussion. The closest it ever came to sports discussion was Messi versus Ronaldo, which that is worse than Twitter. So yeah, that side of it's got a long way to go, and particularly, they never really took a stance on stamping out that racism, homophobia. I thought I'll go back, a month later, have a look in these live chats. It's still there. Like, if you can't moderate it and you can't have it where at least it filters out these words and these slurs, and you're banning people. I saw names, people just typing this stuff, and they would be back every live game. I was like, why is this person not permanently banned? Why are they not kicked off of the app and got an IP ban or whatever kind of way you can keep them out of the app? At minimum, at least they used same username should not be showing up again and again and again. But if you can't moderate this, don't have it in your app. So yeah, that's sort of where we're at. I mean, our community's deleted the app pretty much on whole. I spoke about, you know, we had a good 10 to 15 people in the community we were doing it pretty much daily, all of us. And then when they introduced these loot boxes, I had a chat with everyone and we all decided, you know, actually it's not that great. I didn't really try to push my opinion on anyone here. You know, we had a discussion. When I was in the Discord, there were some people who agreed with me. I don't understand why I was banned from their Discord for providing feedback on the loot boxes and trying to explain why they were pay to win to some mod who didn't understand what pay to win was. I wasn't necessarily rude or anything, but you know, there were people in there. There were some people in there defending it. You know, there was some So Rare player. I guess that explains everything about it. You know, I've given So Rare a look and a little test myself. I've never put money into it, but as far as I can tell, that is also very predatory. And if people like this video, I would like to make more videos on that kind of thing as well. Some of the problems with, you know, So Rare Fantasy Football or some of these other Football Manager NFTs type things. If that's something that interests you, let me know, and you know, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. I'm going to direct you to some other content now, but you know, if you want to ask me more about Omada, feel free to leave a comment down below or let me know your experience. But if you disagree as well, please comment, like, let me know what you think. Am I overreacting here? Is it just like, you know, normal? Should we not be worried about this kind of thing? Let me know down below. I mean, if you made it this far, maybe you don't think that. You want something a bit more lighthearted? I went through some Football Manager memes from the last year on Football Manager. Maybe that'll pick you up a little bit after this discussion of gambling addiction and sexism and racism. So yeah, go enjoy that video. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.